Hello, it's Jennifer Currie, and I want to welcome you to the Creative Soul series. We're here to support you as a creative soul in committing to your visions, getting into action, and healing the blocks that have been holding you back. And I am really excited because today I have the lovely Narayani Gaia joining me. And Narayani, hi, Narayani. I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. She supports those on the path of awakening, healing, service, and freedom. And she is particularly passionate about supporting those who are leaders, healers, and guides for others. And whether you are already doing your Dharma in the world or are wanting to step forward in a new way, she partners with you to be able to manifest the life of your dreams so you can create abundant, sustainable flow in all aspects of your life. And I am really, really happy that she's here talking with us today. Welcome, sweetie.
Thank you. I'm honored.
Yeah, so let's just start by I'd love it for you to tell people a little bit about your journey and how I know you're really supporting people in, a kind of a coaching capacity, and you're a healer and you do that kind of thing. But I know you also are a very creative soul. So would you tell us a little bit about that unfolding for you and how you came into the work you're doing now?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Greetings to everyone watching. Just want to recognize Jen. Thank you so much for holding this space. Yeah, I feel like my journey it's the same as you in the essence of what it is. So before I get into the actual story, I just want to share that I have a deep belief and actually a knowing, deeper than a belief, I have a knowing that all humans have the same kinds of initiations that we go through in life on the journey of coming into being our potential. We have the same lessons of loss and heartbreak and, navigating through disease and suffering, and that even though our stories are different, I really feel like we're all the same, in my essence. Like we're just, my heartbreak is your heartbreak. Your win, when my heart is open, is your win. And so as I share my story, I want to also recognize that I think that where I am now is not my end goal. So where I've been and where I am now and where I'm going is the spiritual path. And that actually, when a lot of people looking at spiritual work and soul work, we look at, being on the path and being off the path, or someone's like, oh, they're way along on their path and they're not really along on their path. And all of that is helpful in a context of understanding our own needs and finding support and mentors. Like in this, we're mentors. Hi guys, we're here for you. And I see life as the spiritual path.
Yeah.
If you're born, that's a hell of a spiritual journey right there.
It's true.
Coming through the portal.
We're all very brave.
The divine mother, AKA your mom. So that I see all of life as the journey and the path. So I just like to say that because I like to help level the playing field so that we can all start to see each other as equally as worthy of being loved, of being cared for, of being abundant, of doing our Dharma, of doing what we're here to do, of being creative. And for me, my story is similar to many people's stories in that, when I was growing up, I grew up in a home where I had a lot of positive influence, but I also had some trauma. There was some abuse in the family. There was, cigarette smoke toxicity in the house, a lot of sibling rivalry. In the 70s, a lot of Brady Bunch, a lot of, trying to match an ideal. But one of the seeds that was planted that was really powerful is my mom was a pretty radical feminist in the 70s. And she really planted seeds for me to have everyone be part of the circle at every edge of our society, especially the misfits or the different races that aren't in your circle or religions. She was a big voice for working with the feminine. And as I got older and I started unwinding what that really meant in my 20s, I started to find that working with the feminine energy wasn't necessarily about fighting. And this is fighting against the system, but as much as a way of being in touch with your own inner well of connection to the sacred.
Yeah.
And so with my own life, it's still something, even to like 8:30 this morning, I was in a process around healing. I had a memory from being 3, it's like, there's no arriving, even though for 25 years I've been doing professional healing work. So when I reached that point of understanding the feminine that was missing from our culture and started looking at the culture as being rooted in a system where we have to fit in, I think that's when my creativity started to unleash. And for me, it was when I was in college, a big breakthrough happened, and I was doing an internship for the state of education of New York. It was it was an internship. I was a political science major. And the reason that I became a political science major is because I was really passionate about fighting for justice. So I'd be at rallies, screaming. And at some point, I don't know how I knew this, but I would leave my office, and I was 21. I was young. I was always like I was a grade ahead when I was younger. So I would go to the rallies across the street. And I was like, I'm more part of the people. Like, I couldn't understand why I was wearing high heels and stockings at 21 when I was like straight out of hippie college. Like, it just didn't fit. It didn't make sense. And in upstate New York. And so I found that in looking at the rebellious side of my nature, that when it came time to graduate and find my career, that I needed to explore more, and that I knew also through some heartbreak, I had my first love in college, and through some heartbreak and turmoil, that there was something I was yearning for that I didn't quite have, but I didn't really know what I was yearning for or what I was fighting for, really.
Yeah.
So after college, I started traveling, and I started meeting some Native people. And I started going to a lot of natural gatherings, outdoor gatherings, drumming gatherings, music. I came to California, came to the Bay Area, and I started discovering my connection to the natural world in communities that were more focused on ecological sustainability, yoga, meditation, and spirituality. And what happened was I had a big realization that my life really at that point, and I started learning how to pray and meditate, that out of that emerged a feeling that what I was here to do was actually to heal myself, heal all the things that I was resenting about my life from my childhood and my teenage rebellion years, heal the things that I felt like were out of balance in my family's line, and actually start to come into a place of serving the world in that way. And that if I just joined some political movements at that age, I was way too pissed off to really make a difference. And I don't know how I knew that, but somehow through the grace of all that is, I had that, enough grace came into my life to know that I was a healer and that I was here to help heal. And so then within a few years, I went to massage school, and then I spent years studying natural healing. I'm 47. So when I was 22, my joke is that I spent the first 22 years of my life becoming conditioned, and then the last 25 years deconditioning from my childhood to unleash and awaken the authentic self.
Yes.
And I'd say it was about 10 years into my spiritual path when I met a mentor when I was in my early 30s, Lania, who really helped me start to think about what I wanted, because I was doing so much clearing. And we'll talk about that. I know you wanted to talk, Jen, about when it's time to create and when it's not time to create, like the survival mode and thriving mode. And that's all very much related to this, to be able to assess the state that you're in. So now reflecting, I could see that was very much a clearing time. And then in my 30s is very much a desiring time. So it was like, what do I want? What is my dream? What do I like? I know what I don't like. I know what's not working. I know who I don't want to be, but who am I and why am I here? And and then my awakening started going really fast. And honestly, I was very much artistic as a child. I did a lot of drawing, I did some painting, and I did designing. And like I shared with you when we talked a few weeks ago, you know, as a child, I told my parents I wanted to be an artist. And they said, girl, you can't make a living being an artist.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, well, squash. I guess I'll have to do something serious, like be a political scientist. You know, so there I was in college, miserable, going, this sucks. I don't want to just fight the world. How am I going to help anyone? I need to figure out who I am. And then I did some traveling and started getting out of the box and started finding that the world was going to be going in a pretty intense direction. And that being with elders and native people really helped me with that, and meeting yogis and different kinds of spiritual teachers and starting to practice. And I went to herb school and became a doula and met enlightened teachers and learned Qigong and just really immersed myself in personal development, growth, and study of holistic arts. And so what became clear was that my path to create my own creativity was through being in my healed self. For me, not, I mean, people can create brilliant things out of suffering. And I know you guys were talking about it, and you know, some of your talks here.
Yeah, we have talked about this. Yeah, because
yeah. So just to finish that, sure. So I think at this point, as like, you know, also my partner passed away last year, and he was an artist. He was a native artist, and he was a brilliant artist. He taught art to all the children in the tribe for 30 years in South Dakota.
I didn't
realize
I'll share with you.
Beautiful. Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was an art teacher. He was the favorite art teacher. And when I went, he showed me all the art and like on the reservation in like this mural, like, I don't know, like 100 feet long, or huge mural. And he's a legacy in his tribe as an artist and an art teacher and a dad and a grandpa. And so one of the things when we were together before he passed was he encouraged all of the things that I always wanted to do. And you know, so now I'm at a place where I'm actually doing everything and planning everything. Like I got the guitar, I'm going to make the pottery. I want to make all my own dishes. You know, I know that I can make art. I'm making these leather bags. Like there's things like I make jewelry. Like there's all these things that I do that are just part of my life that I've never done for money or tried to do for money. That said, I totally support artists making money.
Yes.
And I found that I'm more of a teacher and a coach. You know, and with my new school, the Awakened Life School, I'm going to be working and helping people that are awakening to find whatever their soul is that's going to help us evolve with joy and fulfillment on the path, because spiritual path doesn't always have to be terrible and hard. And it's actually not always bliss. But ultimately, the more that we clear our stories and heal and decode the subconscious patterns that we came in with in our childhood, the more freedom we have to make choices that are going to not just fulfill us, but support us in loving our families and our communities and our work and leaving legacy to help, you know, quickly evolve human consciousness, which I feel like is pretty urgent right now.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I love what you're sharing here, Narayani, about your, well, actually what was dropping in for me as you were talking is that it felt like you had a lot of, well, and I think we all did, because you and I are the same age. So there was a lot of like, I don't know, when we were growing up, I guess maybe it's still like this, but this idea that there were only certain ways to show up as a leader or as a powerful person in the world. Right. And it was a very masculine model. And it feels like you kind of got to a place maybe in your late 20s, somewhere in there, when you were saying you were going on that sort of desire seeking journey, which I think this is like the feminine, right? That you really like it dropped in like, well, no, I'm here to be like sharing my gifts and making this huge difference. But it's my turn to have a feminine path with this, and I feel like creativity is a huge part of that. I mean, I think we're kind of in this huge awakening of like the divine feminine right now, which is part of this awakening that you're talking about. And this creativity, like this topic, this journey, people are like reaching into that and wanting to connect with it more, because I think it's part of that. I think it's kind of part of that awakening of the divine feminine that we're looking for, you know, these ways to express ourselves and heal, and there's like, I think so much that's even untapped really about like what creativity brings to all of us. So
right.
I love that you're kind of, that it's all circled back around though, and that you're weaving it back into your, what you're doing in your life just for yourself. Like it's part of your own self-care is what it sounds like.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, and it became clear several years ago when I went to try to do some art, and I realized that I was stunted in my childhood art school classes. Now, a lot of the people on the summit are already artists, or they want to be artists, so they might be a lot more developed. But I feel like our artistic expression and our creative expression is it's the one way to look at it. It's not it's just one way to look at it, is that it's like it's a developmental process, right? So you could have like your body of work over time that shows where you were, and then you look back and you go, oh gosh, like I've really grown a lot as an artist or a musician, since then. And you have your work to show that. So it's such a beautiful way to ground your own evolutionary process as a soul expressing
Yeah,
yourself.
it's true because your creative expression, even if you look at like I studied, I know I've mentioned this in a couple of these videos, but I
Yeah.
studied art history, so I used to I've actually, that was one of the things that I was like passionate about, looking at the people we would consider great masters art, and you see
Mhm.
it's always expanding. Even the people we think of as like the creative geniuses who just were
Right.
like, they still had to develop it. And you look at, if there's existing things from people, famous artists when they were younger, and you watch their evolving expression, and how it has to change. It changed and it evolved. And um, I think that that's something that people don't actually like. We kind of put those artists on pedestals, and it's like they're just like the geniuses or something, and they evolve too. Like creative expression, it's an always journey. I'm not saying this very well. It's always expanding. There's always more. That's sort of the
Right.
energy of creativity.
Right.
Yeah.
Love
So
it.
yeah, I love talking about this. Yeah, I was just thinking Matisse. I went to see the Matisse exhibit a couple of years ago when it was in New York City, and all of his famous cutouts. He actually, I believe this is true, that he actually kind of developed that because he was getting older, and he didn't have the physical like ability to get up and paint and do some of the stuff that he was doing. And this was a way that he could continue to express himself
Mhm.
as he was losing, as he was aging. And
Mhm.
yet we like think of these things as just they're just so beautiful and brilliant. So that's just one
Yeah.
example that just popped in. But
Mhm.
um, I know that, and I really want to, I think this is a super important topic for creatives, for intuitives, for the people that we're speaking to right now. You and
Yeah.
I can both relate to this. Being highly sensitive, I know you work with a lot of highly sensitive people, a lot of intuitive people, and a lot of people who you would describe as empaths. And we've kind of
Yeah.
touched on this in some of the other interviews, but I would love it if you would give us like a really, just a sense of like, what does that mean if you're an empath? And,
Yeah.
how do you see that kind of impacting creative people? Because I think a lot of them are very empathic.
Yeah. What's the first part of the question?
Just to define that term for
Oh,
us,
okay.
because I'm
Yeah.
not sure everybody would
Oh, okay.
automatically just know what we're talking about with that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So an empath is somebody who feels the feelings of others and takes on their feelings and is aware of their feelings, even though they might be feeling something before that moment completely different. So I just looked up that definition when we were
Yeah.
talking before in the
Yeah.
urban dictionary. Um, but empaths are people that are spongy. If you feel other people's energy, chances are you are an empath, you're empathic. And it's related to the word empathetic.
Hmm.
And being empathetic is like, being compassionate and really getting someone and really feeling them. Jennifer, you're really empathetic. I just feel you always talking with your heart. And when we're physically together as friends, like you're the way that you are, so that as colleagues, as I've known you, is that you're just like, I get you. You just have that kind of you can just identify with like what I'm feeling, and maybe it's just us. That's my guess, is that that we happen to have a good connection,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that you feel everyone. So empaths are like you in that
Yes,
they
definitely.
just
I am
feel
definitely.
everyone. Like
Yeah.
when you're walking and you see an old man crippled and you're like, oh, I feel that guy,
Mhm.
it touches you. And the good news is that there's hope for empaths on the path of creativity, because one reason is because you get to use that inspiration and all that feeling everything to create your art. And
Mhm.
another is that as you learn tools to be able to use your sensitivity to not just create, but to connect more with people and connect with your power, it doesn't have to be a handicap.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then the other part of it is that being an empath can have you be really isolated. So if you're feeling really somebody who's so sensitive that you just can't, you isolate yourself from really doing a lot and creating maybe with other people or doing things with a lot of social environments. This is very common with empaths. There are tools where you can actually strengthen your energy. So instead of being affected by everything, you can actually affect things. And the way that our school system and indoctrination often works is that we're just fed information and then we have to feed it back. And this is part of human condition of
Mhm.
learning to be replicas in our society or culture of our families, which has a great function. So we know how to use our hands, so we know how to
Right.
talk, so we know how to take care of ourselves, so we know how to express ourselves. But what happens is when we get out of school, if we don't have a chance and we weren't really nurtured to express ourselves creatively and find those things that are our own natural gifts or our own natural desires, we end up going like, "Ooh, like, what do I do with myself?" And you see it with a lot of video games, a lot of drugs. People are looking to have magic or experiences of connection and awe. But if you're always just force spoon something, even if it's, I think at a soul level, we choose everything. But
Mhm.
even if it seems that it's happening to you, which it does when you're a kid, you're not consciously choosing.
Right.
But your parents say, we all go through that. When you come out, if you weren't raised where when you're young, you're asked, what do you like? Oh, Johnny really likes beating on that drum. Let's send him to the local drummer. Oh, she's really getting into that beadwork. Okay, let's have her apprentice. Let's feed that. Let's send her to art school right now. Instead we're ruled by a domination society based on economy and lack. So, and competition. Competition's
Mhm.
spicy. I like a little competition. But the truth is, there is more than enough for everybody. We are actually quite an abundant world. And I genuinely feel in my heart of hearts that if we're all sharing what we are inspired to share and create, especially empaths who can feel so much,
Mhm.
if we can come out of that, we're so affected into that we are powerful empaths. That's a summit right there, the powerful empath
Yes.
summit.
Yeah, because it's a gift. It's actually, don't you think that it's
Right.
really like it's an intuitive gift is what it is?
Absolutely. But we need mentors and guides like yourself to help people to navigate and learn new ways of being
Mhm.
that we haven't had necessarily laid out before us or in our school system or regular trainings. And even therapy can help you understand how you were, but it doesn't always create the template for how you can be. So we need much more support for empaths to be able to feel seen, to feel heard, finding empathic mentors and sensitive creatives like yourself to be able to quickly evolve on our path, move past our stuff and our limitations, and just live life to the fullest. Because life is now, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Life is now, and we don't know how long we have, as you and I both know, with
Mhm.
having loss in our lives. And the world is in urgent need of some major inspiration.
Yes.
We need to like lift each other up right now more than ever.
Yeah, that's
So that's
so
what gets me
true.
getting out of bed in the morning.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree, and I feel the same way. Um, Tell me a little bit, like as you're talking about this, and I like this empowering of empaths, because I feel like there's so many empathic people, and I actually like refer to them as the beauty loving, creative spirits. Like we are just I know so many people like this. I work with people like this who are just so
Right.
sensitive and so like heart-based, and they love people and they want to, but they are really feeling overwhelmed by the world. They feel like I can't get out and do my work in a bigger way, or I feel very like, sometimes I think socially anxiety can be like kind of a symptom of like empathic overwhelm. Like, I love people and I want to be with my people, but I get like drained when I go out in public, that kind of thing. What
Mhm.
are some of the things that you could, how do you support your empathic clients? Like, can you give us a few examples of things that you would maybe, help them do, or some advice that you could give to people who might be struggling in some of those ways?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So when I work with people, I have a whole system that I take people through. So I'll give you some tools, some things that I teach in that system. And basically, think of it like that we are spiritual beings having a human experience.
Mhm.
Okay, that's the first thing. And that doesn't mean that your spirit is in you alone. It's also around you.
Mm.
So we are not humans having energy fields. We're actually subtle energy, and our physical body is contained within that subtle energy.
Oh, I love
Okay.
that. Yeah, that's a beautiful way to
Okay.
describe that. Uh-huh.
Foundation. Yeah, I
Mhm.
didn't make it up. So
Yeah.
my mentor
Yeah.
gave it to me 10 years ago. Yeah. So around us is all these thoughts, beliefs, and in our physical body, even are like stories and traumas, like third chakra, like I can't speak my truth, or I don't know what I want, blockages in our lower chakras, or like like I like nobody gets me. Oh, and you see people walking like this, their posture's down, or
Mhm.
there's these ways that our bodies and our energies are holding stories and dynamics that keep us from being open, inspired, creative, joyful, and free. And so I want first to just name that it's in your body, but it's also in your field. It's also in your energy field. So that's where energy healers come in, and they're like working on the field, and you could do Reiki, you can work on the energy. It's not just the physical. Okay.
Right. Right.
So when you're looking at when I work with empaths on really coming into um, their power, I really work to help support them in being in their body and grounding their energy first through connecting with the frequencies of Mother Earth. Okay,
Mm.
so that's number one. So that is connecting to the physical world as your home planet. A lot of times we're about in the world, we're running about. Oh, on the weekend I went for a hike. Oh, on vacation I went in the ocean. Or some people are maybe more active, some people are less active. I found out there's some people who've never seen a real waterfall. Couldn't believe it. A real waterfall in the
Wow.
forest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you
Yeah.
imagine never seeing a real waterfall? Wow.
I can't actually, because I live close to waterfalls, and it's like my favorite places to go visit. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but even so, we have these ways that we go about in nature to connect with nature, but in fact, we can actually connect with the energy of Great Mother Earth in any given moment through grounding ourselves. So grounding is the number one tool for empaths. And what that means is really anchoring your energy and your body down. Do you ground? Do you work with grounding?
I do. And I love that you're saying this, because I almost feel like I want to say to all of our listeners, like, are you starting to hear some patterns? Because other people that are in this, I mean, I love that, because we need to keep hearing this again and again, that, and everyone's talking about it in a different way too, but it's all, this has a lot to do with our manifesting ability, like being anchored in and grounding into the earth. And it's not always something that I find that creative souls are naturally super good at. Like, we're not always the best, like knowing how to do this, which is why I'm loving that you're
Right.
talking about it right now.
Yeah,
So,
so there's a few things, like a lot of creative souls are driven by vision. And
mhm,
so driven by like third eye, driven by like the energy up here and
it's
or
up
by
here.
here. Yeah.
Mhm.
So grounding helps anchor your spirit into your body. And another thing about creative souls that is in the way of empowerment, just to name that, and then I'll offer then there's another tool, is a lot of us have wounds and trauma. And so when you have wounds and trauma, you're like, get me out of here, or like, get me in my room with my art. You know, you're just kind of, you just get into this, you look for it to be in the world because your connection with people is not quite easy and is hard. And that's actually, most of us, we're pretty dysfunctional as a human species right now. I mean, everyone's just blaming each other and bumping up against each other and projecting. I mean, it's kind of a hot mess, I gotta say. So we have an opportunity through understanding our traumas to decode what we feel. And so really working with your feeling body. And so once you ground your energy, the next thing that I work with people is I'm really decoding what the energy is in your feeling body. So if you're feeling resistance around a story, looking at what is actually going on there can help you decode it through sensing not just the feeling, which is regular psychotherapy, but what is the energy quality of your feeling? So is it dense? Is it light? Is it sharp? Is it contracted? This is something that I learned from studying Ayurveda, and it's called the gunas in Ayurveda, the qualities of energy. So what is the guna? What is the quality of that energy? Is it like, wah? And then asking, what I do is I ask it for a human expression. So is that sound like, just leave me alone? You know, what would that dark, mucky feeling in your chest, like, oh, I can't breathe? And then usually out of that story, so it's 2 steps, there's actually 3. What is the emotion around the block?
Mm-hmm.
Then what is the energy quality? And then what is the human story? And then once we get into that, then we practice loving and beholding it. AKA, give your nerd a banana.
Right.
Only you know what that means.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and some other people know what that means. So it's like
Or
really practice
self-love, or
self-love.
yes,
Exactly.
like, yeah.
Then we cultivate the heart, and really learning how to drop into your heart at will, learning into cultivate, sit with the heart. And then there's meditations and way you can work with that. That's just foundation. Once you can get there and then you learn how to clear your energy, you can open up to actually start to get new vision. I call this cleaning the room, putting the primer on the walls, just getting ready to paint.
Yeah.
Then
I love that. Yeah. That's a beautiful, like,
right?
visual.
And,
Yes.
and then you get ready to paint. Then I teach people to work with their higher self. Then you work with energy coming into your field. Then you start to connect with what you're creating in the world and what your boundaries are without putting up walls. There's ways to find your own container. It's like your field is your container. And so if you've been in a certain container, a certain way, a certain suit, we're constantly shedding. The spiritual path and the awakening path is about letting layers come off. You could stay in creative funk, stay an addictive, angry artist if you want. But if you're on a soul evolution path of creativity, then the shedding of the layers is an important part of awakening to a newest, most updated version of yourself. And that's transformational work. That's where transformational work meets creativity, is by, doing the work to get out of the way, to clear a story. And then, that said, draw a painting when you're in your feeling. What's the energy of my feeling? Create whatever you want with that too.
Mm-hmm.
If, that's your work. But for me, that's when I feel like, okay, now I can move forward with calling in my future or creating something new that's never been created. And then we start to work with gratitude and different embodiment practices when I work with people as well.
I love this because I feel like as you're talking about, like, creating what you want, like cleaning this. I love this vision of, like, we're just like, we've got a room that's like freshly primed. And now, that's where all the clearing work is kind of getting you to that clean room. And now you've got this opportunity to start, what do I want to bring into this space? What do I want to bring into my world? The room kind of is like your world and your experience.
Right. And so many ways to find that.
Yeah. So is this what you would call, like, you were talking earlier about that co-creative process? Is that, is this where the opportunity to kind of get into co-creation, is that where you see that happening? Like, this is now when you're starting to bring in what you want. And I know that you talk about this in relation to creating abundance. That's one thing that we get to create in that space. What, you mentioned survival mode or abundance. Like, could you talk a little bit and kind of, I feel like you're kind of touching on it. Let's just dive right into that for a few.
Yeah. Survival mode, abundance, and co-creativity. And how do they all play out, and who cares?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, like, who cares? I mean, like,
Yeah.
why should you care?
Why should we care?
Why we should care. Yeah. Yeah. So just to go back a step, like with co-creativity, if you're trying to create with others, if you're doing an art project, maybe you want to open an art gallery, maybe you're starting a business, maybe you are doing a summit, even this is a co-creative process.
It's totally,
we met over coffee, we start talking, and we get on the phone, we're like, oh, do you want to do this? What would I do? How would that fit? How does that serve? Let's see. Well, what does that feel like? Now, if I was in my deep, dark story of I have to do it all, it's not even that deep and dark, but just I have to do it all alone. Say that's an old story of mine, the lone wolfing syndrome. I can do it all alone because I figured out how to do things on myself out of survival mode. Then, I figured out how to do things myself. And a lot of women have in our modern world. We get to do it all. And it does seem like a have to. We have to. And it really is a blessing, but it feels like more of a blessing when we have all the support. And when we work with grounding our energy and connecting to the energy of the support of the Great Mother, and that all things come from the earth, and that our abundance, every physical thing you see comes from the earth, we can come into a connection with Mother Earth that is really rooted in gratitude. And from there, we're able to connect with people from a cleaner place, without losing your center, my center, because I have my own feet beneath me. And also we get to be in a place where the stage is set to start to create prosperity and abundance out of nothing, or something out of nothing, so to speak. And with the energy of the themes of working with, I call them the themes like grounding, feeling, self-love, clearing. These are all themes that I work with: presence, empowerment, gratitude, receptivity, generosity, balance, boundaries, and trust. In working with all those themes in co-creativity, once we've gotten through those first themes, like if I meet you and I'm just totally in my, like, I have to do it alone, what do you have for me? Or like, or maybe I'm in my, like, I'm hoarding, I'm not in abundance because I am in scarcity mode. Because some people, they hoard because of scarcity. That will keep us from co-creating together, right? So the ultimate co-creation is a baby, is lovemaking, the ultimate co-creation.
Yeah.
Right? It's like making a baby, right? But I love looking at sex as a template of understanding the nature of creativity, because we have masculine and feminine inside of us. And so when we run our energy and learn how to clear our own stuff and come into the heart and love ourselves, as well as take responsibility for like learning how to clear. And I teach, and there's lots of people that, teach you how to clear your energy.
Yeah.
That actually practice that and come into the presence of what's possible with creating something new. Then we can be in a place of an abundant possibility. Whereas if I'm in survival mode because I'm stuck thinking I have to do it all myself, or I don't have enough, there hasn't been enough in my past or my old story that has led me to that, then I'm not open to begin to even discover what mastery is, creativity is, or co-creativity, which is taking the feminine way of being into the masculine way of doing. And then there's a union of the masculine and feminine within your very own being. And from there, that's when intuitives get together and really make shift happen.
Yeah.
Really make shift happen. We can really get together and go, you're a doer, I'm a doer. You're intuitive, I'm intuitive. Let's do a mural. Let's do a summit. Let's start a business. Let's do an event. Let's do a retreat together. Whatever. It's that masculine and feminine side yourself of taking that new awakened place into a place of acting that helps balance that creativity of birthing something new.
Yeah, I love that. Can you talk a little bit about, and I could just talk to you about this forever. I'm like looking at the time. I can't believe it's just like flying by, but I just want to like,
we're just getting started, honey.
I know,
Our first event.
But I want I would love it if you could just speak into, because I know that so many creatives really struggle with being in survival mode. Like this is a reality that a lot of people are experiencing. They're in it. They're having difficulty with, this self. I mean, I don't know what people are thinking specifically, but I can imagine that, there could be thoughts happening like, well, this self-love and all this sounds great, but I have to, and then fill in the blank. Like I have to do this in my life or whatever. What would you say is a great sort of like starting point? Like if somebody is in that space, like what they could, to take this, what you're talking about, because this is really powerful stuff that you're talking about. How could they, what's the entry point of that? How can they get into that and start, getting that energy more active in their life so that we're not like in that closed off, lone
story.
wolf, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's funny because you said there's not enough time.
I know.
Right?
I don't.
And then what I said,
time.
no, it's okay. Yeah. It's okay because I'm you. I could have said that. I mean, it wouldn't have been a bit way off for me to say that. It's not personal, but just to play with that. And then I said, we're just getting started. But what I meant was you and I are just getting started in our project. This is our first project.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I didn't mean we're just getting started in our talk today.
No. Yeah. I got that.
Right.
Like
You did get that, right?
Yeah.
But in a survival mind, I saw that in a survival mind, it could have meant, oh, there's just not enough, or like, oh, we're just getting started. And now, anyway, so I just found that interesting in part of this question because there's all these ways that survival mind can reveal itself. So the first step is to be ultra aware and start tracking when you're saying, I have to instead of I get to, or when you are in the frame of there's not enough anything. Sorry to put you in the hot seat there.
No. This is really, because even when you're like consciously, this sneaks in. This is like very prevalent. So it's like we're all kind of learning a new way with this. I think everybody's learning a new way with this.
We're all growing and evolving, especially if we choose to. So those two are foundational, right? So awareness is key to freedom. I always say awareness is key to freedom. So having awareness that there's something that doesn't feel right.
Right.
If you have an interaction with somebody and it's just not sitting right, and you try to shake it off and it's just not sitting right. What does that bring up for you? What does that bring up for you? Where do you feel what it brings? And then track it. So you just know, you feel something. I just don't want to, I have this art project. I have this thing I want to do, but I just would much rather drink beers with my friends and go sing songs around the campfire or whatever, whatever you're into. Yeah. That sounds like fun.
Yeah, actually that does.
I don't drink anymore, but it's like, oh, that sounds like fun. But, what is it that comes up for you? So, like for you, what's something that you find, Jen, do you want to share?
Like, let me make sure I'm understanding your question. Like
what's something that comes up for you that maybe keeps you from like doing your art or like emerging into?
Well, I think for me, I mean, the example we're already using, like, and I think this is the one that a lot of people relate to. It's, I find myself saying I don't have enough time, or I don't have the time to do it, or I'm balancing that. I'm really working with being more conscious of that. But that has been one that I have struggled with and worked with. It used to be a way bigger deal, and it's now I don't have that experience of feeling lack around time like I used to, but I can still catch myself going, I don't have enough time, or I'm feeling really stretched thin, or I'm not finding the space to go and do the kind of creative work that I want to do. So that would definitely be one for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Time. Yeah. So when you feel that, can I play with you? I promise not to take you all the way into the depth of a rabbit hole while you're facilitating.
Okay.
Just to look at it, just a little bit of kind of witnessing it. Okay. So, and I know we got to wrap it up in a few minutes here. So when you think about tuning into the time issue, the time story, I'm going to invite you to just take a deep breath. We'll do it together. I'll think of it too. And if you guys are watching and you want to play with us and participate, you can as well.
Yeah.
So just take a breath and ground yourself into Mother Earth. Just remember you're totally and completely supported in looking at and unwinding any stories that are keeping you from fully expressing yourself in freedom and joy. And like, yeah, really connect. There you go. Like really dropping into the mother. Yeah. And then notice, and you can open your eyes if you want, because I want you to stay here as well. So it's good to practice this with your eyes open, because then you kind of stay aware, more aware, because sometimes we need to practice grounding in public and stuff. So
That's
it's good.
true.
Yeah. So it's good. Like if you're in a situation where you're feeling so much energy, you just kind of ground wherever you are. So stay grounded. And then when you tune into what you feel around there's not enough time, what do you notice in your energy?
The energy, when I'm in that space, it feels there's a little franticness that comes up. It's like this sort of feeling like it's like an agitated sort of energy, like
Yep, got it.
overwhelmed, kind of that sort of
Agitation, like it's building.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
Like
you
I
went
have
like
too many
this.
things to do, and I'm not able to do everything like that.
Agitation,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so if that agitation had any kind of a voice, what would it say? There's not enough time, or what would it
Mm-hmm.
say?
It feels like it would be more of a it's almost like you're not being enough. That's more what it's saying. It's not saying you don't have enough time. It's like you're not being everything for
Mm-hmm.
everyone, or
You're
you're
not
not
being
showing. Yeah, you're
right.
not being everything. You can't be everywhere at one time.
Yeah,
That's sort of the
I'm
language.
getting some more information for you that we'll talk about privately.
Okay.
Actually, I'm getting a whole
Okay.
piece that I respect you, and I'm not going to make this, but I'm getting a whole thing I want to share with you privately. So that said, once we're aware of what that story is, it's helpful to work with a practitioner, and I am, offering some private, a free gift of 10, just 10, 10 mini sessions for people. But to be able to even ask yourself with a journal, go, what is it? What do I feel? And then what would it say? And then coming into your heart. So just bring a hand to your heart. Just take a moment and just smile into your own heart as if you're smiling into your own little inner baby, like your innocence, your own innocent heart.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Just connecting to inner love. And then just give yourself acceptance. We don't need to sweep frantic under the rug. We don't need to yell at frantic and tell frantic it's a bad thing. Just love frantic. Just behold that the frantic energy is there because of we live in a toxic world. It's very stressful. You've made choices on a soul level. You don't need to figure it all out in this moment. Although when we're doing this in session, and I want to share with you more, we can decode it more.
Okay.
And you might get more information. It reminds me of being two, not you, someone else might say, oh, this reminds me of being two, and I was always pressured. Okay, let's love that part of yourself. And what happens then, I work with the heart light and the energy of light, and then work with expanding the white light and love into your whole body. That's the meditation.
Beautiful.
Actually dissolving through presence, slowly spreading the light. And sometimes it takes time. But eventually, if you really let yourself feel it for a while, it starts moving anyway, just through awareness, and then loving it to support it's on its way. And then from there, I suggest doing any kind of ceremony. It's usually a story that goes deep, especially for people that are really want to go deep. It's something they've been carrying around. So go to the water, even take a bath with your favorite herbs, and mark. Use your mind to tell yourself, this is going to clear this layer of this story in my life. And I choose a life that's on the other side of frantic. So I choose a life that is calm, and I can do everything I need to do and be present, and also accept how I'm accept where I am. And you can choose calm, and you can actually reprogram your nervous system through grounding and through loving yourself and through clearing alone, just to get ready to start to create.
Yeah, I love that. That's so beautiful. And I actually do, I can feel just as you've been talking, like I actually feel quite calm right now. And I can feel energy moving too. So I know that there's been like something shifting through this
Cool.
process. So it's really, really beautiful. And I'm so happy you like shared that with me and with everybody, because we got to have a little taste of like what your genius is. I do want to like transition though, because I want to give people a chance to learn how they can work with you. And it sounds like you're going to offer these sessions for the first 10 people who opt
Mm-hmm.
in. Is that what you're like, who go over and check out your offer?
Yep,
So do you want to tell them a little bit about that gift that you're offering?
I do. And
Oh,
do you have the domain name or do I have
I
that?
think you have that.
Okay, let me just double
And
check. I know what it is by heart, but I just want to check because I really want to
okay.
make sure that it's correct.
Yeah. And we'll
So,
have it on the page too. So when
oh,
people are
okay.
watching this, they can see it'll be there. So
Okay, I was like, is it Creative Soul or Creative Soul Summit? I have it right here. Just give me 1 second. But basically, I'll tell you guys. Oh, here it is. It's newawakeleaders.com/creative soul
yeah.
that I created just for this community, for your community. And if you go there, there's a link where you can book your free session. And the session is for empaths and highly sensitive people and creatives who want to break through their stories of limitation that happen in all aspects of their life. Because how we do something when it comes to our wounds, it trickles into everything in our lives. So if you're having one dynamic with this boyfriend, if you break up with him and you don't deal with it, you'll have it with the next boyfriend. So you guys have seen, we know that. We
Mhm.
see that play out, or with our parents. So to really get to the root, I work with people to have breakthroughs to heal and really get clear on your soul's calling. Yeah, it's just looking at some of my notes here. So
Yeah.
for this group, it's an offer for a 30-minute session. If you're an empath, if you have any issues with boundaries, if you're also intuitive, if you feel that you might be taking on other people's energy, and if you really want to be living an amazing life of creative expression and possibly sacred service, which means that you want to teach, you want to help others, even if you're a parent and you know that everything that you do affects your family, then I want to talk with you,
Yeah.
because I love teaching these tools to empower people to really be free and like make every day count, and live your fullest, most passionate life in alignment with your soul's evolution as possible.
That's so beautiful. And yeah, so take advantage of Narayani's beautiful offer, because this is really like powerful stuff she's sharing with you. And I am going to just sign off now. And I want to thank you
Okay.
so much for being here today, sweetie. It's
You're
been so
welcome.
fun.
We're just getting started.
Yes, we are.
There is more
So,
than enough time, energy, and resources for all of us.
yes, I love that. All right. I will
Congratulations.
see you
Great
all
summit.
soon.
Thank you for including me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you
Yeah,
so much. All
you're
right.
welcome. I look forward to seeing what happens next.
Okay. Bye,
Okay, big
everybody.
love.
Big
Bye.
love.
Bye, Jen.
Bye bye.